break down the constitutional issues, and there are many of them, involved in Obama's plan. From the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, and Fox News senior legal analyst Peter Johnson, Jr., immigration attorney Michael Wilds. Before we get into the president's comments tonight, Michael, did the president tonight act in a way that is lawless and unconstitutional based on his own words and his own standards? Let's go to the videotape first.
The notion that I can just suspend deportations through executive order, that's just not the case. For me to simply, through executive order, ignore those congressional mandates would not conform with my appropriate role as president.
Now, I know some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own, but that's not how our system works.
The problem is that, I'm the President of the United States. I'm not the Emperor of the United States.
Michael, you hear what he said. The notion that I can just suspend deportation through executive order, that's just not the case. And the president says, it's not appropriate role for me as president to do this. It's not how our system works. I have to execute laws as they are passed. So I asked the question, did the president act in a way tonight that was unlawful and unconstitutional based on his own words?
Sean, first, thanks for having me on.
Great to have you.
You're gold. That trip to Israel you took,
thank you,
went to my heart.
I appreciate that.
And I have to tell you, it's not you. I think that the dialogue has deteriorated significantly on immigration. This president...
I want to hear your thoughts on immigration, but
I'm going to tell you right now.
This is an important question.
This president has not made law. He has exercised prosecutorial discretion by saying, I'm going to defer taking action on these individuals. You run a big company. You can't install the law for every single individual. And you want to make sure that you're going to deport criminals, kidnappers, murderers, and you're going to allow people that are turning down our beds.
You have not answered my question, and I'm going to go back to it because this is too important. Let me turn it over to Peter Johnson, Jr. By the way, you're a Democrat.
Yes.
Even an esteemed colleague of yours, George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, says we're at a tipping point. Based on the president's own standards, is what he did tonight lawful or unlawful, unconstitutional?
Openly defiant of the United States Constitution.
Based on his own words?
Absolutely. Tonight, the President of the United States says it's about who we are as a country. So if anyone looks at this presidency or this executive branch, who we are as a country is a country that doesn't value the Constitution, that doesn't value the separation of powers, that says I can nullify any act of Congress anytime I want. And if you want to have a better law, pass one that's different and better than the law that I'm enacting as the President of the United States. The President of the United States does not and should not and cannot enact laws.
Okay, so this
11 presidents, Sean, 11 presidents have done this. He did not make a law.
That is absolutely positively
correct.
We'll get to that in a minute. But look, I know those are the talking points. I know the president mentioned it. Jay, I'll let you handle it first. Go ahead.
Yep. Well, that's just not correct. What Michael's saying is incorrect. When they rely on President Bush and President Reagan, there was underlying legislation that served as the basis upon which the executive order was issued. That's constitutional. What is not constitutional is providing a substantive right, which the president has done, will do tomorrow when he signs the executive order, when there is, in fact, no underlying law to support it. And you'll see this reliance, Sean, on the 1986 law that President Reagan used to issue an executive order. What people are failing to recognize, that particular law applied to people that came to the United States prior to 1982. That's what the law was involved with in that particular case. So the president does not have the authority to do what he has now about to do tomorrow. And the second point that I think is really critical, and Peter was touching on this, I mean, this idea that the president can just circumvent the United States Congress, that's where the concern should be. No matter what your position is, and Michael, I'm a grandson of an immigrant, so I'm sympathetic to legal immigration. My grandfather came here legally. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what your position is on the substantive issue of immigration, the President of the United States doesn't get to act like a king or a monarch and just determine by, decree how we're going to run our country under the laws that are existing. That's the role of Congress.
Michael, you didn't address the president's own words. I want you to address, he made the case stronger than I ever could that he doesn't have the authority to do this. Wait, you cannot ignore his own statements. There are 25 separate statements. We will be playing them in the course of the night tonight. That he said he doesn't have the legal authority to act this way, but yet he did it. How should the American people interpret that?
This president has deported over 2 million people.
Not answering my question again. This is too important.
Give me a chance.
You're a lawyer. Please help us.
Sean, give me a chance. At least they're not putting pictures of people running fences behind me, which is usually what happens here. Look, this president is not making law. And truthfully, every president has the authority to issue executive orders, and it's Congress's right to go make legislation if they want to do it. The bottom line here is he is not creating new statuses, and we are now letting the illegal obfuscate the legal immigration.
What do you mean he's not creating a new status?
He's not
absolutely is creating
He's giving
a new
work
status.
permits to people that are not here legally.
And giving a work authorization temporarily for 3 years.
All right, let me go to your fellow panelists.
And he's my new brother in the law, but I think you're absolutely wrong on this. He's created a standard.
Yep.
He's created a new law. He's created a new ability in the presidency of the United States to wipe away 30, 40, 50 years of immigration laws in this country and say, you haven't acted, I want this done, I'm doing this, and if you don't do it, this is going to stand. And then
Sean,
attaches some moral imperative to it that's absolutely inappropriate. Emotionally, we all want the right thing. We want the ability for people to be happy in this country.
Moral imperatives are not the role of the president to determine when there's Congress that's in place here. I don't think you can simply ignore Congress, which is what's happening here. So while you morally may sympathize with what the president's trying to do, the way to do that would be get legislation through, which, by the way, the president had the ability to do for a period of time where he decided when he had the House and the Senate and didn't do it. That was the president's choice. The choice he made. So whatever you can't put the moral issues here. This is a question of constitutional law, and that's the real issue, and the president doesn't have that authority.
Let me go to what the president's words are, because I hear where you're going with this. The system's broken. I've waited long enough. That's the argument that the president's been making now leading up to this. I don't care whether the system is broken or not. I don't care if his policy's better or not. It doesn't really matter. It has nothing to do. Undocumented immigrants, he broke the law. The law has consequences. We have a system. Don't we have co-equal branches of government, separation of powers?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Gentlemen, we are a nation of laws, and right now the law does not allow an engineer to be sponsored or petitioned by an American company without taking 12 years from a country.
The issue is the
Get
rule
the law
of
changed.
law.
The president can't do it by fiat.
The rule of law is more important than any particular political ideology or preference of a president of the United States. And we will suffer this for generations to come.
Michael, you're making a completely emotional argument here, not based on law. You're making an emotional argument here that is not based on law. And the president doesn't get to just go through emotions and pass a law. That's the role of Congress. That's the problem here. It's the underlying constitutional issue is the significant issue.
And they're not given the deference and respect and the dignity of being able to be here. They're buying orange juice and they're living here and they're making our beds. What is it?
That's the emotional argument that Jay's talking about. But here's the question.
We don't have a law about making beds being a right of citizenship in the United States.
We currently have a law of the land. That law was passed by Congress, signed into law by a president of the United States. Tonight, this president bypassed Congress. We have separate. Listen, you're an attorney. I shouldn't have to tell you this.
Law changes,
Wait a minute. We have separation of powers and co-equal branches of government.
Law changes when Congress passes a law.
Emperor.
All right, guess what?
And a monarch.
Okay. Everyone had their shot at a Democrat and a former mayor and an immigration lawyer. Let's tomorrow now give Congress the microphone and the lights on them.
But
and let's see what they're going to do. Let them make the rules. They make laws. The president executes the law.
They make the laws.
Correct.
The president's
and he's executing within his authority.
No.
They can't find a law firm that's going to sue the president.
What law is the president issuing an executive order on, Michael?
What went on with Reagan and Bush was based upon laws passed by Congress, signed by the president. This is a law passed by the president, signed by the president, enforced by the president, dictated by the president. This is the president's law. That is not American law, and that's not the U.S.
Let me go to Jay.
Michael, Yeah, Sean, here's the fundamental problem. Michael is arguing, and I'm sure his heart is sincere, an emotional argument that we need to help people that are here, that may have come here illegally, but we want to help them. So your sympathy can be there. But the question that we have to ask, Michael, and you know this, you're a good lawyer, the question we have to ask is there a constitutional basis upon which the president can issue an executive order under Article 1 of the United States Constitution, under Article 2, what's the roles here? And that's a separation of powers issue. And what you're ignoring is there is no underlying law that the president is basing the executive order on. And at the end of the day, you can be as sympathetic as you want to people that are here illegally. Fix the law. Don't have the president do it by fiat.
I'll answer his question. Immigration is a shared authority constitutionally, came out of the House Ciades case, and with the president. It's a joint responsibility where the president executes on laws
Remember
that
Youngstown
Congress
Steel.
makes.
Presidents have tried this before. It doesn't work out so well.
And has not made laws. This president may be late and may be politically astute at this time, but this president is now stepping up and is going to fix a broken system. And we're all correct, gentlemen. Congress really has the authority to make law. It's up to Congress tomorrow morning, and let's all run down to Washington and see what these people are going to do. They will not move. The new trust given to a Republican Congress, they're not going to move.
You've got it backwards. The President, Peter, in 2009 and 10, had a Democratic House and
couldn't get it done.
Hang on.
I agree.
Well, he didn't get it done, but he doesn't have the ability to do it this way. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you agree with Jonathan Turley that this is now bringing this country to a constitutional tipping point? Is it that serious?
I hope it does not. And I hope that the president's calmer angels prevail on this, because
it's too late.
He's way off base. And even a first-year law student would understand, based upon the Constitution, the separation of powers, what his true abilities are in the Constitution, that he has exceeded it. And he's exceeded it in a way for personal, political gain. We owe more to Americans. We owe even more as well to the foreign immigrants to this country. There should be a path, but this is not the path.
He says
he's polluted their path.
We cannot unfairly reward. They will be rewarded because they get to stay. That is the reward of breaking the law. All right, we're out of time. I know you want to talk more, but this legal question is, to me, the single issue in this debate. This is it. All right, guys, thank you both. All right.